Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Mrs. Gorkiewicz. I'm here today to tell you about an assessment that we're going to do that's going to talk a little bit about our geometry concepts that we've been learning so far and actually are coming up. So for this assessment, we're going to have to kind of put ourselves back into a place in history, a time in history when the California gold rush was going on. We're talking 1849. Interesting fun fact for you, the San Francisco 49ers, which is an American football team, is actually named after this year, the 49ers, and actually named after the people that came to California to try to dig for gold and make themselves rich. And those people were also nicknamed 49ers. So, here's the situation. It says, in the 19th century, many adventurers traveled to North America in search for gold. We have a fictional landowner here. His name is Dan Jackson. Dan Jackson owned some land where gold had been found. Instead of digging for gold himself, he was an entrepreneur. He was making a business. He decided he wanted to rent out plots of land to other adventurers. And this is how he set it up. Okay, so he says he is giving each adventurer 4 stakes, kind of like the stakes that you see here. Okay, those are kind of like the stakes that you would stake out a plot of land. Okay, so he's going to give every adventurer 4 of those and 1 rope that is 100 meters long. Okay, each adventurer has to use the stakes to mark off a rectangular plot of land. Okay, so this entire assessment is going to basically ask you 3 questions, and here they are. Okay, so remember, 100 meters of rope all the way around, that's 100 meters. You're probably, hopefully, thinking of the idea of perimeter here. So the perimeter all the way around has to be 100. Okay, so that's the perimeter. But here are the questions. How should an adventurer place his stakes to mark out the biggest plot of land? So, ladies and gentlemen, there is a best way to do this, so you actually get the most space. Okay, you get the most space, and the space inside is not really just the perimeter, but that's something different. That's called the area. Okay, so to figure out how much space the plot is in this situation, you want to look for the area. That's the space inside. So compare the area of different rectangles. Okay, maybe you make a rectangle that's 10 here and 10 over there. So what do we have so far? We have 20 out of our 100. So that means there's 80 left. So this would be 40 here because it's going to be a rectangle. So it does have to be the same on the top and the bottom. And the left and the right have to be same to each other. Excuse me. So does that make 100 when you add up the 4 sides? That's the idea of perimeter. Has to equal 100 in this case. Okay, so their perimeter has to be 100. You got to be specific. They're going to be meters. Now, is the area, is this kind of yellow space? I'll do a different color. Is this space in here, is that also going to be 100 right now, ladies and gentlemen? Well, no, because you're going to need to use the area formula for a rectangle. So area of a rectangle is length times width or base times height. It doesn't really matter which one you call it. If you call it the length and the width, we're going to multiply those 2 numbers. Length times width, which means 10 times 40. So you can see how that's not necessarily the same thing as the perimeter. Okay, those are different. Okay, so, oopsie, I didn't mean to do that. Thought I'd get rid of my arrow. So the area, 40 times 10 is going to be 400. So that's one way to do it. You have a rectangle that's 10 by 40. There are many other ways to do it, and maybe, just maybe, there's one way that is the best. That gives you the biggest space. So that's the first question. Okay, question 1, how do you set it up to make the most area? Question 2, what if 2 adventurers work together? Okay, so your buddy says to you, hey, let's put our ropes together. So now we get a perimeter of 200, okay, meters. You're still getting 4 stakes of land, though, so you're still making rectangles, okay? You're not making, like, an octagon. That would be really difficult to figure out the area. Okay, don't do that. Okay, you're still making a rectangle. number 2. But now you're tying 2 ropes together and you're trying to come up with the best area and also see if individually, okay, so you still have to find the area of your 200 situation. You're still looking for the area of your rectangles, but when you divide that area by 2 for each person, is it more than just working all by yourself? Okay, so you're still taking whatever your area you get and you're just slicing it in 2 because you have to share that space with your buddy, with your friend. But you get 200 meters of rope. And then what if more than 2 people work together? So extend, basically an extension on number 2. Okay, what if more than 2 people work together? What if you have 3 people working together? 3 people working together is going to be 300 meters of rope, but whatever you get for your area, you still have to divide it, that's a division symbol, by 3. Kind of figure out what would you still get as your one person. Okay, so this is the basic premise. Okay, I have a few different ideas from different students. This one kind of draws one rectangle. It gives this one area. It says they would work together. It would make it bigger, but they don't really explain this very well. So this is kind of an example of something that's more in the 2 or 3 category as far as grade. Okay, so to give you some examples, this is quite a low-end grade. You want to try many different rectangles and you want to prove, okay, criteria B is about investigating patterns. Okay, so what is the pattern that you recognize? You have to show me many different options to make your pattern valid. Okay, another option here. So this person has done a few different rectangles for number 1. Okay, they have a few different options. I can kind of see, 3 is kind of a short amount. You probably want to do more than 3, basically. It's okay. And then number 2 and 3, there's an explanation, there's some wording, but there's no actual written out diagrams of the rectangles. So this, again, is probably only in the 4 category or so. Okay, number 5 is getting better. Their diagrams are much neater. They're using a rectangle, they're using a ruler, and they're giving many different options to prove their point of which one is the best. Okay. With 2 people, again, they're doing a few options. I think they could do more than 2, but that's what they did, and this is probably one of the better ones. Number 3, the last one here. Oops, I'm sorry, I went the wrong direction. Sorry. This is the last one here. A lot of good math, a lot of good explanations. These are good, but again, I think that this one is probably the best, and then it's nice and visual. Okay, so take a look at the form that I've given you. Is it possible to maximize the area of a plot of land given a restricted perimeter? So you get 100 meters of rope. What are the different areas that you can have depending on how you set up your rectangle? Okay, so this just explains what I just went through. This is the 3 questions that I just talked about. The next page is a little bit more specific, and maybe what I want you to hand it in. Your goal, answer the 3 questions. That's it. But do a good job and show your work and make me some diagrams and explain what your thinking is in words as well. Your product. So similar to the cats and kittens, where I just want you to give me one A3 piece of paper. Okay, you're probably not going to get to that today because you're probably just going to start brainstorming. The techniques that you're showing me to justify your answer. Drawings, tables. Okay, if you have your different rectangles, maybe you make an organized table that says, okay, here's the length, here's the width, here's the area of my different rectangles, and you show how things. Okay, that's another way to really nicely summarize your different guesses, I guess, that you had for your different rectangles. Maybe you could come up with an equation that gives the perfect rectangle, no matter, I don't know what the perimeter is. Okay, if it's 200, this is how much area you would get in the best situation. If it's 300 perimeter of rope, this is the area you would get. That's only really if you have time to get to. That's quite a 7 or 8 level thing, but make sure you do try and do at least 2 different ways of displaying your work. Make sure you have a title. Make sure you describe the situation. You write it out. Write out the questions that you're answering. Okay, don't just start by saying, yes, it is better to work together. Describe the situation. Okay, and then explain your findings for each of the 3 questions. Okay, for the 7 or 8 level, you need to extend your findings to a new shape. Okay, so this is where things get difficult. This is where you really push it to the next level. So whatever your pattern was in question 1, can you take that to triangles? Can you take that to hexagons? Okay, try a new shape and see if that same pattern emerges. Okay, so I have made a video to explain my justification for 7-8 level, so if you're interested in that, please do watch that video as well. And then on the last page, you're going to see the rubric. Okay, take some time to read this over. Focus on the column where I'm a little bit more specific of what this looks like. Okay, the techniques I just talked to you about. Okay, drawings, table, equation, different ways to summarize your work. Okay, try and do that in more than one way if you want to get into the 5 or 6 level. Okay, the rubric here is basically about plurals. Okay, you're using more than one technique to display your work. And then justify means apply this rule to a new situation. See if it holds true in a new situation. And this is the 7-8 level. Okay, so read this over. Read over the whole thing. Ask each other if you have questions. Ask me questions when I'm around. See what you can come up with. Just start doing some brainstorming. Okay, there's some space here on the bottom of this page to start working out your scratch work, or just do it in your math yellow notebook. Start trying out different rectangles. Remember, the idea is this. The perimeter has to be 100. That's the space all the way around. And the area is going to be different depending on what you set as the length and the width. Okay, area is length multiplied by width. So you multiply this number by that number to come up with the area. Okay, I think that should do it for you. Enjoy, just start brainstorming, approach it with an open mind, and I'm here for you if you have any questions. Talk to you later. Bye.